Hey guys, it's Treetop here, back at the reloading bench. I have in my possession the Lee little simple single stage Lee C style press 90045. I've always wanted one of these and I don't know why. I think it's actually Elvis Ammo's fault, because he used to resize bullets on this, and he did a lot of videos on this when he first started out. I don't know if I've seen it too much, but he kind of popularized it for me anyway, and I've always wanted one. I did a video a while back about a bug out kit where I mount a press on top of that, and I kind of wanted to mess around with that a little bit. So this came into stock. It's been out of stock for a long time, and then it was really expensive for a while, and I just saw the price drop, so I went ahead and pulled the trigger, as they say, and got one. Now, I need this press like a hole in the head. I've got a whole bunch of presses, but I'm a sucker for inexpensive presses, and I also like to see what kind of quality I can get on a budget. So anyway, I thought I would show you guys this and maybe put together a little video for you and put it through its paces, take some measurements, set it up, see what you think. I'm going to mount it on this block here. If you see my other videos, this is a spare block, and so I'm going to drill some holes in it. I'll mount it up here where I mount all my other presses, and this will have its own mount. Here's my template. Just going to use one that's already mounted up. Pick up the holes for the bench. First thing I noticed is that the handle's got a little play in it that I don't think is necessary. You can see a little play here. So I'm going to go ahead and fix that before I even get going here. I don't think it's detrimental at all, but I think as long as it's nice and smooth and you don't bind up or anything, I think it's better to have it tight. See if this does. You can definitely tighten up the linkage and get a snugger fill. Yeah, I like that. Okay, so that was easy enough. Before we get into this too much, let's go ahead and clean this up. And we'll put a little bit of wheel bearing grease on it. That's my favorite. Sort of that viscosity kind of gives the press a little bit of a hydraulic feel that I always like. So I'm going to put this on generous because it's the first time. Just going to work that in. It's going to make a mess, and we'll clean all that up. I'll put some on the bottom, force it up from the bottom side. You really feel that ram start to smooth out and get over any of those machining marks. Really makes it smooth. I don't know. This is what I like. So I'm going to go ahead and wipe that excess off so it doesn't attract any dirt. And we'll move on. Oh yeah, that feels nice. Much better. Let's take a look at the way this press is laid out. So first off, this is a C-frame press. And they call it that because it has this sort of C shape like this. Now the advantage to that is I have really good access in and out from all the way around. I just have this obstruction in the back as far as access to the ram. So that's a nice feature. Now the downside to that is for a lot of people, this press is not going to be robust enough as an O-frame press. And that's an O-frame is the one that has the opposite leg over here and down. So it's going to really hold this part that you're pushing against very firmly. Now if I can get you to take a look down here. First of all, I really like the shape of this handle. It looks kind of industrial and well put together, and it seems like it's made in a way that would be strong, sort of the I-frame, I-beam kind of way. But notice that it has the very traditional change in fulcrum right here. Notice how these arms get closer to the strike or to the ram, and the ram speed slows down towards the top, which means that your leverage gets greater. So to your hand, the force is going to seem very similar, but you're actually putting more force up here. This is very common in presses, and this one has it also. If you look right here, you can see that the handle has stops built in as well. So it's not a cam over press per se. It does go past center, but it's not really able to go back and return down the other side. If you take a look at the ram, you can see that the ram is a fairly small diameter because it is a small press. And the area of the press frame that the ram rides in is also very small. Everything that you see here that's red is aluminum, the handle's aluminum, and the levers and bolts in the ram are steel. So what that means as far as the security of the ram, that you have a very short distance here, and what keeps the ram square. I don't think it's a problem because when you come to the bottom here, you're pushing straight up and down. You're not pushing sideways. You can see when you hit the stops, you do get a little rock at the top. But that's fairly normal for Lee presses. But again, the bearing surface here is fairly small, and the smaller diameter of the ram is going to inherently give it just a little bit more wobble than you normally would have. So is press wobble, ram wobble, a bad thing? That little bit of movement you see there, well, it's almost impossible to get rid of in a smaller press like this. But I will show you this. You have a shell holder that can move in its spring tension there. You also have your cases can move around. They can kind of find their center. They're not perfectly captive. And then on top of that, I'm just going to throw this I have laying here on the bench in here. You can see that the way it's designed, there's a little bit of movement there. So in this style press, you have the case has a way to self-center a little bit. And I think that's personally beneficial. I've tried to go all one way with everything really locked tight, and then back to the other way, which is just to have a little bit of space so things can self-center. I find this to be a better solution anyway, so I don't think it's detrimental to this press. Now, one more thing I will show you here while we're looking at this part. This is a resizing die. And when I come up, I'm coming in contact with the resizing die. Now this is following the directions where you lower the ram, you tighten the die down towards the ram, towards the shell holder, and then you remove the ram and you tighten it another quarter turn. That means that your stop is not here anymore. Now you see I'm not moving the ram left to right because my stop is on the vertical surface here. So what I really need in a press, any press, whether it's an expensive wood or an inexpensive one, is I need this to be square. I need this face to be square 90 degrees to the die. And that's really what I need. If the case finds its own center slightly with a little bit of movement, that doesn't hurt anything. But this is representing your breech face. So this needs to be square to there. That's the most important thing in press operations. And if you're not doing shoulder setback, if you're adjusting your die all the way to touch, then stops and press move and ram movement are pretty much irrelevant. Let's take a second to look at the breech lock system here. So this comes with one breech lock bushing, and you can buy more of these obviously. But basically the way this works, it's a quick insert option for your dies. So you can just drop them in and turn them. Here's a good example here. Turn and lock, and I'm ready to do that function, whatever that is. This is a bullet seating die. So what I like to do is these bushings usually come with some sort of index mark here. This particular press doesn't have the lock for that, which makes it handy to be able to unscrew the die and leave the bushing in place. But I do like to use that notch as a reference point. And so what I'll do is I'll find a spot that it tends to lock down on, like this casting line right here. So that little notch right there, that's my reference point. And I'll every time I install this, once I have it set up, once I have the die adjusted, I'll turn it back to this, because you can push past that and you'll get a different adjustment. So just turning to that same reference point every time gives me just that much more. Now let's take a look at the decapping function on this press. So I have it set up with a universal decapping die, which will decap everything. And then I just have a little 10 mil 40 cal shell holder in here. This little passageway here that you see going through there, let me see if I can bring it around a little bit there. It goes into a compartment here. This whole area in the press is hollow. And so that's where your primers are going to collect here. And then on the ram, bring it around this way. Your ram is right here. There's a hole right there. And the primers come down and they shoot out this hole. They shoot into this cavity and they're captive there, which is nice because it keeps them off the floor. In just a standard press mount, it's a little difficult to empty. You would have to take the press off, take the block off in my case, or if you have the Lee bench plate mount, you could pop that off and just lower the ram, flip this over, and pour them back out this hole. Not too big a deal, keeps them off the floor. This will probably hold many hundreds in there, but for some folks, you know, that may not be the most simplified way to dispose of your primers. But let's take a look at this and see what it looks like. You'll be able to see those primers jumping across. All right, we're at the trash can here. I've just removed this after punching out about 100 primers. Let's see how easy this is to empty. Lowering the ram all the way down opens up that slot right here. I think it makes it pretty easy to do. So this press does not come with a priming system, but Lee does make the ram prime system that you can use with this press very easily. So I've got an older one. I don't know what they look like now, but so you just thread that housing, this housing for your shell holder, into a breech lock, drop it in like that, move your shell holder up to the top. Then you have your push pin that gets on your ram, like so. And then I'll just do one for you real quick. Your shell goes in like this, and then there's the trick. You have to manually put your primer in this in the push pin here, and then you seat the primer. A little bit tedious to put them in one at a time, but it's doable. You can do it. It does a nice prime job. And it actually has a pretty nice feel too, if you like to feel the primer actually go in. So I thought I'd show you that. All right, let's set up to do some resizing. Let's see how it does with that. We're going to use a 223 die, and I'm going to use all Lee stuff here, just so I can. I think it's only fair. when we take a look to see how this does. So we're going to bring the ram up here. Full bottom, we're going to bottom it out and bring the ram all the way to the top. And we're just going to dial it down till the die touches the shell holder. And we're going to lower that, and we're going to turn it about a quarter or half or so we get good contact there. And then we're just going to put a little pressure here, and we're going to tighten that down, tighten the jam nut. And that's it. We're set up. That is the factory setting. There's other things you could do for shoulder setback where you do some fine adjustments. But on a press like this, I think we're probably going to have to go with the full resize, which is pretty standard for most people. I've got some worst case scenario. Here's some range pickup, PPU, brass. This is just what I do. This is just stuff I found at the range. Picked them up. They got dents on them. We're going to lube them up, and we're going to try them in this sucker. So I'm going to use some Lee lube. Trying to keep this all Lee pretty much where it matters. I'm just lubing these up. I'm going to use a little generous lube on this because this die hasn't been used in a while. Let's see how this goes in. All right, nice good stop. This is what you want. You want to see that stop metal to metal contact. And that is what we're going for there. Sometimes I'll actually turn these and run them back through. I think it's from using one of Lee's other dies, or call it die, that I got used to doing that, but I don't know. I do weird stuff. And just put a little bit on there, a little in the neck here. I have no idea what these were fired in. I didn't fire these. But this is, you know, typical of what I think most people would use. They'd use some brass they found or brass they shot and want to reuse for reloading. Feels good, guys. It's got good leverage right where you need it, up at the top. All right. Here we punch the primers out, and these are all resized. We'll just throw a little trim on them and move on to the next step. So I got it set up with a Lee quick trim here. We're just going to do a real quick trim on these just to show you. You can do that on here too. Throw a little trim on these babies. Because trimming your brass after sizing is part of the process. Different ways to do it. Lots of great ways to do it. We're gonna seat some bullets now, and then we'll take some measurements on the finished product, and we can actually measure everything that is related to the press in terms of quality. So we'll do that. But first of all, let's look at this bullet seating die. Now this is a Lee bullet seating die, and for their rifle dies, they have what they call a dead length seating die. And this is interesting because a lot of dies have, inside your bullet seating die, they have a crimp. And so you can adjust down to where, just as you're finishing the seat, it'll put a little crimp on top. Real handy in pistol ammo and things like that. But for the rifle die, the thing that's nice about this is its adjustment is not to an arbitrary place to hit the crimp right. Its adjustment is to the top of the ram head or shell holder. So again, you get a very fixed adjustment. So let's take a look at what that looks like. So I'll bring this down. See, I'm in contact here, and just go a quarter turn or so. So I have a stop at the same place every time. I'm just gonna tighten this down. All right, so the next thing up, we're gonna set our bullet depth. Now again, I like this for this kind of press the dead length seating die, because again, I'm stopping it at this fixed place, so I control, because of that hard stop here, I'm not coming up, you know, at some random spot down below based on adjustment here. So I get the same repeatability, even though my press is not really as robust as some of the other presses. For projectiles, we're going to use these Privia Partisan 62 grainers. I get these pretty cheap. I think they're about $10 a 100, something like that. So I've had these around for quite a while. So we're just going to seat these. We're going to put them in a. We're just going to assemble these. These are dummy rounds. There's no powder, no primer. These are Alec Baldwin safe, so no one could be harmed with these. This is just for the purpose of testing that we're doing this. I'll share my technique with you a little bit here while I do this. So one thing I've come to do is I like to spin the round a little bit, or spin the case a little bit, and I like to kind of tap that as I get it started. And if everything's square, it'll usually kind of square up by doing that. Just giving it a light tap before I actually push it into seat. Oh, I guess I'm out quite a bit there. All right, so we'll bring that down. A little bit more. And more. All right, that's the first one. A lot of times when you do the full insertion on the other ones, they don't come out the same. But 2.260. I like to try to get them started as straight as possible. This takes advantage of the boat tail a little bit. And just carefully seat that down with light pressure. You know, really on your reloading presses, most of your functions are very, very light pressure-wise. Doesn't take a lot of force. Well, typically only resizing. Get you a nice good start there. Now it's time to test our results and see how well we did. First thing, let's check our overall length. I apologize for using a dial caliper here. I'll try to get that in there where you can see it. So we're sitting at 2.264. These are a little longer than they should be, but we're just testing. You guys can probably see that better than I can. Try to keep the glare off. 2.2634 again. Again, we're looking for consistency. This is 2.260. I think that's maybe one of the first ones I did. Now this one's 2.266. That's actually a little bit longer, that one is. And 2.263, 2, something like that. So we got about a 6/1000ths range there. So we measure overall length, and that's important. That's a number that we all use. It's important to make sure that we fit and feed the distance from here to here, the tip. But sometimes these tips can kind of land in a different place when the bullet's manufactured. So it's really not the best number. The best number is to measure what's called CBTO, and that is cartridge base here to the ogive, which is right about in that area right there. And so when you measure that, that's important because that's where the stem of your seating die pushes, not out here on the tip. And it's also important because this is the first part that touches your rifling, the first part of the bullet that touches the rifling. So that's really your most critical number if you want to really get down to technicals. So let's take a look at these and see how we did. Try to get this in here. So you can see I got a little glare. So this one is sitting at 1.905 and about 1/2 thousandths. You see where I'm writing? This bushing is writing. Again, 1.905 and 1/2. And you can see where I'm writing on the ogive there to measure, take that measurement. .905, almost to 1/2 there. .905 and 1/2. So, and 1.905 and 1/2. Let's check this one again. Did you guys see that one? 1.905. So our bullet seating depth, as measured to the most critical, is only off by 1/2 thousandths. So that is really, really good. That's unexpected, actually. We're going to test our resizing, and we're going to look at the headspace adjustment, how consistent we are with the head spacing, and that's going to test from the cartridge base to the datum line on the shoulder. So I've got the headspace comparator bushing 330 in here. I'm going to zero that out. With my thumb in the way, give you a look at this. So I'm looking at 1450, I guess 0.5 after that. And 1451. So we're off 1/2 thousandths right now. 1450. And 145. And it's 1/2 thousandths still. So we're at 1451. So I think we had 1450 and 1/2 and then 1451. So the headspace is within 1/2 thousandths on all of these. Now comes another biggie, concentricity. We're going to use my RCBS Case Master. This is not probably the best piece of equipment out there, but we're going to try to get it done here for us. So I like to see a 0.3 or less for what I would call match ammo. So you guys can probably see that better than I can, but it looks like this one is about just a little over 3. That's not too shabby. That's about 1/1000th and 1/2. That's a really good one right there. So that's about 3 right there, it looks like. I might be off just a little bit because I don't have a very good angle here, but this one I can actually see it in the case. Was that about 5 thousandths? Sometimes check your store-bought sometime and see See how that comes out. And this one is about 3 thousandths. So that's pretty good for a little $45 press with stock Lee dies, nothing expensive. I think that's pretty respectable results. So I just want to wrap this up, and I think I gave a good look at this. One thing I would say is, man, I'm really impressed with the numbers we got. It stops in the same place. It produced ammo that's, you know, respectively concentric. These are, you know, I'm not using the best of materials. It can only get better from that. I think it's a great reloading press for doing accessory functions like punching out primers and seating bullets and resizing bullets. It'd be great for that. I'm going to use it. I intend to use it as a portable press. I want to take that on my reloading kit that I want to take to the range. I've got a video on that, and I'll link it at the end here. So it's perfectly suitable for that. Travel press, something like that. As far as a new reloader starting out, if you're careful and you pay attention to all the things I showed you, you can easily make really nice cartridges, particularly, you know, I just tested this on a medium-sized cartridge. 223 blackout, 300 blackout, what else? 7.62 by 39. I don't think you'd have any trouble. This will do pistol ammo all day long and make great stuff. So anyway, let me know what you think, guys. That's my takeaway from it. I think I'm actually pretty surprised. It's actually a little more robust than I thought it was going to be, and it does a nice job. Let me know in the comments what you think. I appreciate your opinion on my video and how I put it together. If you like it, click the like button and consider subscribing. And we'll catch you in the next video. Thanks for watching.